Welcome, Philly, to your favorite sports show, Babes on Broad, hosted by Jesse Town and Sam Wilson. They're smart, they're sexy, and they're all Philly. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. Babes on Broad.
Hello and welcome into week 2 of Sixers Babes on Broad pregame live. Woo!
Yes! Love it.
I am Sam Wilson with my co-host Jesse Town, and we are the Babes on Broad, brought to you by Bleeding Green Nation and SB Nation. We want to thank everybody for tuning in right away again this week. You guys are amazing. Again, we're super excited to have something fun and positive to talk about after that Eagles season that we all just witnessed.
It's still not over. It's
Yeah.
still not over.
We still have one more game of just pain on Sunday Night Football, so that's its own thing. For anybody new to our pregame shows, welcome. We're going to start off tonight by talking about the matchup coming up just 1 hour from now against the Raptors, and then we'll get into some of the other matchups this week, followed by some predictions and then prop bets. So obviously, the big difference between Sixers and Eagles, well, besides that they're completely different sports, is the fact that the Sixers play multiple games in a week. So games upcoming this week, obviously, I just said the 2-1 Sixers taking on Toronto Raptors 1 hour from now. The Raptors are 0-2 currently. Thursday, they take on the 3-0 Magic in Orlando. And then Saturday, they take on the Hornets at home, and the Hornets are currently 1-2. So there's some other good games. I will not be here. The Magic one would be very interesting, to say the least, to do a live game or a live show before that. But unfortunately, I will not be here, so we can't do that. So we'll get there. We'll get there today. Some injuries with this Sixers team. They are enduring their first injury of the season.
Shocking.
Hopefully not many more. Maybe it's one and done kind of thing, you know? The new Vamp Sixers. Furkan Korkmaz
We can only hope.
is out for at least 2 weeks with a left abductor injury. So it's like the outside of his hip. He will miss 3 games this week, and then they have 4 games next week. So a total of at least 7 games for now.
Minimum.
What
would we do without his 6 points and 2 times stepping out of bounds per game? I don't know what we'll do without it.
I know, it's stressful.
I'm sorry. You know, I am not a fan of his simply because I have absolutely no patience for the fact that an NBA player who has been in the NBA for the last, 4 years now? He's been in the NBA for the last 4 years. I have not seen an entire team step out of bounds as many times as Furkan Korkmaz does on his own.
Well, okay, so that was going to be the next thing I said. For fair reason, you're having annoyance with him.
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
No, yeah, it's not just
it's the lack of awareness. It's the simple things that should be there that he really struggles with, and it's just like, ah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think part of my problem is just with the organization itself for trying to tell me that he was going to be our shooter, and he literally went 0 for 7 from the floor in the playoff series against the Boston Celtics. But that's neither here nor there. That's in the past. I have my issues. I can only hope he improves, but
one could hope.
That's just where I am. So let's talk about tonight's matchup. So taking on the Raptors obviously are the team that bounced them from the playoffs 2 years ago, and we have a comment on Instagram that says it's because of the yellow shoes he wears. Yes, they upset me. I don't know. They don't match
the European style.
Anyway, so obviously the team that bounced them out, but a completely different team than what they saw 2 years ago.
Completely.
They still have Kyle Lowry, who's a huge piece of what they do on both sides of the floor. One of the interesting matchups tonight will be Ben Simmons versus Kyle Lowry, seeing how that kind of works. I know Russell Westbrook still had a triple-double against Ben Simmons, but not a great night from the floor. 21 points on 22 shots. Not great, not very efficient. Ben also had 3 blocks and 2 steals in that game. And then on Saturday night, RJ Barrett was 2 for 15 from the floor versus Ben. So this is another good matchup for Ben Simmons. Lowry isn't leading the team in scoring, but he is leading the team in assists. He's had 10 assists in both of their games so far. So obviously averaging 10 assists per game at this point. But, what's going to be, I think, a big piece for this team tonight is going to be the wing defenders and how they fare against Fred VanVleet, who is leading their team in scoring right now, and guys like Norman Powell, who can get hot and hurt you. So that kind of defense is what is going to be one of the keys for them tonight, especially on the defensive side of the floor, because obviously, Fred VanVleet and Norman Powell aren't going to give the Raptors much from the defensive side, but from an offensive perspective, the Sixers, need to step up and limit them offensively.
No, I agree with that. And that's obviously a huge thing. I mean, this team is 0-2, so I'm hoping we don't see them really play down. I mean, we didn't see it against the Knicks, obviously, so maybe it's not a thing hopefully, it's not a thing we have to worry about this year. But I'm very cautious of that just because of the reasons you mentioned. They have the capability to put up points.
Right.
I mean, it hasn't come across in their record, but they have that capability. So that's going to be a huge part to limit that.
And I think
just on the outside.
This is an interesting point too, as well, because I think one of the positives about Ben is he can move all over the floor. And I think there are times when he's going to be glued to someone like Kyle Lowry, but there are also going to be times when he's able to kind of switch off on Pascal Siakam because he can so seamlessly defend all these different positions. And especially because the Raptors really only have one true center right now in Aaron Baines, which we'll talk about that matchup with Joel Embiid in a second. But they have a center, and then they have a bunch of power forwards that they can kind of move around. So exactly, it should easily neutralize any hot guard, but can also transfer onto a guy like a Pascal Siakam if he's starting to get hot as well. I mean, it's really going to be whoever has the hot hand. I really think, and this goes for the season across the board, whoever has the hot hand is where Ben Simmons should be, no matter what position that person is, because that's one of the things that makes Ben so special at what he does.
100%. I mean, relating it to the Eagles, it's the same thing as Darius Slay on defense. He's going to cover their number one. That's Ben Simmons for us.
Right. And I think what exactly is so good about Darius Slay and what he's done this season, obviously he's had some games where he's, great receivers that he's playing against. But I think the fact that, it doesn't, if you make adjustments, right? Like that's something that we always talk about how Brett Brown couldn't do. He couldn't adjust, and what he needs. And yes, essentially, I think Ben is a traveling corner, but he's a true number one corner in that sense. And I think that's what makes him really special is like, we could put Darius Slay against any of those receivers, and who are you? He's the person you're going to trust most, right? You can put Ben Simmons on anybody on the floor, and you are going to trust him to neutralize them in some aspect, whether it be a tiny guy shooting threes like a Fred VanVleet or a power forward like Pascal Siakam who can get to the rim and has a little bit more length. Ben Simmons can do any of that and do any of that extremely seamlessly. There's no drop off, and I think that's one of the Sixers' biggest strengths this season is that defense from him. And then there's the other exciting matchup tonight that we haven't seen it because I think either Aaron Baines or Joel Embiid were hurt or not playing. Like, I don't think they actually went up against each other last year, but the guy he doesn't have a man bun anymore. He cut that off. But like the fact that Joel Embiid just calls him man bun is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to the world.
Does he still currently call him man bun even though he cut it off?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't. So, I mean, he was with the Celtics for the first 2 years that Joel was in the league. So that was real, and there's that play that just lasts in my brain where he absolutely fouled the absolute heck out of Joel Embiid and it didn't get called in that Celtics series in 2018. But I mean, this should be I don't know if he still calls him man, but he might. If he decides to get on Twitter or Instagram after the game, he might call him man bun.
We need to ask the hard hitting questions.
I think I need someone to ask that Do you still refer to him as man bun if his man bun is gone? But I think that's going to be a super fun matchup to watch. Obviously Embiid loves playing against him because he really does. He does take advantage of him. And if he gets in foul trouble, Embiid's unstoppable tonight.
Yeah. No, and you already mentioned it. That's really their only one true center that they have. So if Baines can't get it done, who's going to get it done for him? So that's going to be a huge thing for them, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, that's one, I'll get to it, but that's one of my keys to the game.
Yeah. So I was going to, seamlessly transition into that key to the game. So obviously Joel Embiid is your key to the game tonight for them to win.
Yeah. I don't know if I should say key, because I think there's other ways that other things they can do to win this game.
Sure.
But I do think that we're going to see a big game from Joel because, one, you said he loves playing against Aaron Baines. And then two, he'd had, what was it, Sunday? Yeah, Sunday off.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that rested, coming out, performing well, Joel Embiid. So I think he's going to have a 30-plus point game. I
think he should. He should easily have a 30-point double-double tonight against Aaron Baines because, I think one of the biggest things, I totally agree with you, Joel Embiid could be a big key to this game. Taking care of the ball is going to be another key. I think anyone who watched the game on Sunday, obviously it was frustrating to watch, but I think, the Sixers it wasn't announced until like 15 minutes before tip-off that they weren't going to have Joel Embiid. So I think you kind of saw all the players once they stepped on the floor. Like, I don't really think anybody was very checked in. The turnovers were really bad to start, and they just looked a mess and looked like they were tired and kind of checked out, which you never want to see. But also in a 72-game season, on Sunday night, the full strength Bucks with the reigning MVP and defensive player of the year lost by 20 to the Knicks. The Brooklyn Nets, who obviously have one of the best players in Kevin Durant and, one of the most prolific scorers in Kyrie Irving, they lost to the Hornets. In a 72-game season, it happens. And the Sixers didn't have one of their biggest pieces. We're on the second night of a back-to-back. And, it kind of was just one of those like, all right.
Exactly.
This is an L. Let's move on. So I think taking care of the ball is going to be the biggest step. One of the things that they really did in their first two games was they limited the turnovers, and turnovers have absolutely just crushed them throughout these last couple years. And this is true. Limit turnovers way better than Sunday. Sunday was a mess, but they also looked like, they weren't. I hate to say not really trying because that's not the right word, but you could tell they looked very fatigued. And some of those younger players for the Cavs were really able to kind of take advantage of that. So the Sixers have a leg up in every facet of their team against the Raptors.
Yeah.
Use it.
I was going to say, it's not the first time this year that we've said that. So that's why they need to stay on top of the game. With that being said, what's your score prediction?
My final score prediction tonight is like a 118 to 96. Sixers win. I think they keep it close. The Raptors keep it close throughout the majority of the game, and I think the Sixers kind of put it away towards the end of the third, early fourth, and we kind of start to see some younger guys step in after that. But I think the Sixers win this one pretty handedly, barring something unforeseen happening. What about you?
No, I agree with that. I don't have quite as big as a difference in there, but I do have a sizable difference. So I'm saying Sixers 114 to 101.
Got it. So other storylines of the week. We can talk about some of the other games going on. So obviously we talked about Joel Embiid versus Man Bun. That's going to be one of the key matchups of the week. The Sixers play the Orlando Magic on Thursday, and our old friend Markelle Fultz just received a contract extension.
Yes.
3 years, $50 million.
Which it starts next year as well, so that'll take him into what? 2024, 2025 season? That's weird to say, 2024. Oh. But
weird year.
It's interesting to see. So I went back and granted, there's a sizable difference in games played, but I went back to see some of the difference makers or like differences in his play in Orlando and his play in Philly. So he's played 75 games in Orlando, 33 in Philly. His field goal percentage has gone up about 5% since he's been in Orlando. His 3-point percentage is interesting. It's
still
around
bad.
the same. Yeah, it's basically the
Still
same.
bad.
It's not improved. 2-point percentage has gone up about 10% almost. Free throw is the most dramatic.
Well, do you remember watching that man try to shoot free throws? I've never seen a hitch like that or a person like bobble the ball.
Well, and that's so there was that talk about Markelle obviously not succeeding in Philadelphia because of the yips. It was all mental, and I fully believe that. And I think
agree.
the free throw, because of what you just said, it wasn't like he was just like, it wasn't a technique thing. It was more of like his hitch. It was in his mind. He was thinking about it. He had his superstition. Like, you know what I mean? You could see
there was
he was
a lot going on.
Yeah, and I think the free throw percentage difference going up about 21% since he's been in Orlando is a huge, huge factor or proof that
there's
it was
not
a mental game.
Yeah, I mean his shooting percentage and his free throw percentage really show you that. And I will say, I mean, like, we saw glimpses of it in Philly. And what disappoints me the most about Markelle is after he left and the way he talked about Philly, the way he talked about the Sixers, that frustrated me a lot because I was at the game where he had his triple-double, and that crowd went nuts. Like, they were beating the Bucks by a ridiculous amount. It was the last game of the season. It really didn't mean anything. Whatever game happened before, I think, had something to do with where the Bucks fell. So I think the game that they played that night, it was like a Wednesday. It was 6 o'clock. It was like, 3:30 in the afternoon. And we were kind of like, hey, let's get tickets and go see the Sixers. They're $12. Let's go. Like, why not? So we went, and the game was irrelevant for both teams. I think the Sixers ended up winning by like 40 points. It was ridiculous how much they won by. And the entire bench was so excited. The coaching staff was excited. And that crowd was going out of their minds scoreboard watching because Markelle was getting so close to that triple-double towards the end of the game. And I mean, I'm sure, it was the silent majority that, wanted Markelle to do well. And it's all the loudmouths that I'm sure he saw. But, and this is true. He hit a couple threes. Like, it was nuts. It was so much fun. And it just sucked the way that he left and was like, Philly never supported me. And because it's crap. And that's what's frustrating.
I think the biggest part of it is he got wrapped up. I mean, he's young. He's obviously on social media. He got wrapped up in that. And I know later in the career, he was told by his camp to like not focus on that, blah, blah, blah. But I firmly believe that he saw what people were saying and all the criticism online.
Right.
And that played a major factor in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
you're right.
I was just going to say, I mean, some people just aren't cut out for Philly. And unfortunately, Philly are loud now.
Some people aren't cut out for dealing with the social media thing. And I don't think that's just Philly. I just think some people can't handle it. And that's fine.
Fair, but
because it's an extra thing of, I mean, this didn't exist for athletes 25 years ago.
No, 100%. No, you never heard of the yips before because it wasn't as crucial and as personalized as social media reaches out to them. But I just think Philly's different in the fact that they're so extreme. And I think that's what he can't handle is how you said they were cheering crazy for him every time he hit a three. You and Chris said that. And then they could go and light him up the next night. And I think he was just not cut out for that. And there's a lot of people that aren't cut out for it.
He didn't get booed. He didn't none of that happened. And he tried to make it seem like he was harassed when he was on the court. And it could not have been more opposite because I think this is an interesting point. Like, it was a huge miss for Philly, especially with what Jason Tatum's doing. Not necessarily, because Markelle Fultz was a consensus number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Like, even if the Celtics kept the number 1 pick, Jason Tatum was their guy, right? So, like, even if we didn't trade up, Markelle Fultz still would have been a Sixer because Jason Tatum was the guy that the Celtics wanted. And that's fine. Whatever. Markelle Fultz wasn't this, like, Justin Jefferson sitting there at 21 and you decide to take Jalen Reagor. That's not it. That's not what that was. That was this kid can play basketball. I mean, listen, like, Tyrese Maxey is exactly what Markelle Fultz was supposed to be.
Yes.
Right? But because he's a Kentucky guy, he's a little bit better. I mean, there's a reason they went to the schools they went to, but also keep in mind that Markelle went to Washington, which is also a place where he didn't have to deal with the criticism. He didn't have to deal with the spotlight. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, he knew about it. Obviously, like without March Madness, without all that stuff, like it wasn't necessarily the same, but I mean, that's kind of what it is. So like, he was still a consensus number 1 overall pick. I don't think that the Sixers made the wrong choice there. It just sucks it didn't pan out. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And it is one of those things. So we talk about it with whether they get rid of Carson or Jalen. We're going to root for the other one because we genuinely like them and they're great quarterbacks.
Right.
Markelle kind of made himself the bad guy that makes it a story every time they play because even though he's not outstanding, I mean, he's a key piece for the Magic, but he's not a top player in the league.
Right.
It still is always a storyline because he made himself the bad guy by coming at Philly. When in reality, he was just the sensitive one that wasn't cut out for Philly and didn't pan out.
Right.
So it makes it like, cool. Like you're doing better for yourself and you're performing slightly higher than you did here. But he's still not living up to that number 1 hype. That's not on us.
Right. That's not on anybody but him. And it's the same thing. Like take Orlando Scandrick, right? Like, you know, he was a former Cowboy and he came here and everything was like, okay, fine, support it, whatever. He leaves and has a lot to say. And like, he still wants to try to talk trash. And it's fine if he's talking trash about like the organization as a whole, because we've determined that the organization as a whole is not ideal right now. But talking trash about a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, like you made this personal now. This is personal and we will end you. And I support that wholeheartedly. Everyone would have supported Markelle when he left. Everyone in Philadelphia, besides, you know, the couple boneheads, would have been, you know, wishing him well in his career in the future, cheering for him anytime he wasn't playing the Sixers. He did that to himself.
Yeah.
And you know, that's part of what happens when these young kids all of a sudden become what they are in professional sports. And it's unfortunate, but like, that's what it is. And again, that's true. He's averaging over 20. He's leading the team in scoring right now. He's playing well. They were the hottest team in the NBA through week 1. The Orlando Magic, which no one saw coming, but they were. Like Markelle and Terrence Ross were a great 1-2 punch for them last week, and obviously it shows because they're 3-0. Now, you know, small sample size, but I'm happy that he's doing well. But you know, he doesn't exist to me because of the way he wanted to act. Like Philly was so terrible to him when we were so hyped that we got that number 1 overall pick. We were so hyped that they drafted Markelle Fultz, and we were so hyped to see him play. And he showed what he could do here in flashes, but there was something else that was nagging him, and it would have been fine, but he had to open his mouth about it.
No, I agree 100%. So, I mean, it makes a fun storyline every time we play the Magic.
Sure.
So, whatever. Another storyline, we already kind of went over it. Korkmaz is being hurt, and he's out for 2 weeks. So, with that, him being out, it obviously gives more time to somebody else off the bench. Who do you see kind of taking over his role more, or getting more, not even taking over his role, but just getting more of those minutes?
I think they start to I think they put for Matisse Thybulle in there a little bit more. He was kind of the odd man out last week because he was hurt during camp, so he wasn't really playing much. And obviously, like, he needs to pick his offensive game up. That's an absolute must. And Doc Rivers typically doesn't like relying on rookies to have to carry more of a heavy load in times like this. So I think it's going to be a Matisse Thybulle, but he's going to have to. But keep in mind, like, Doc Rivers isn't the guy who's going to just like leave him in there and let him make mistakes and let him ride it out. So he's going to need to really step up from the offensive side. But granted, we have more guys in there now that can provide you with points, and Matisse can, I mean, if Matisse can give you between like 7 and 12, that'd be great.
Yeah. And
still play his defense the way we know he can. I think that's exactly what he needs to do. And he can weasel his way back into sort of a 10-man rotation in the current absence of Furkan and kind of reclaim his spot, because he's sort of been the odd man out and we haven't really seen him much so far.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I was going to say the same thing, in the fact that this is kind of the opportunity for Doc to put him in, who's said openly that he has nothing against Thibault. He thinks he's a great player. He just is going to give him that opportunity when he gets the chance. And Thibault's he has the chance now. He's got to seize the opportunity. You know what I mean? So hopefully he puts up some points along with his defense, because Doc technically leans towards an offensive guy more than a defensive guy.
Right.
But I'm really hoping it's primarily Thibault and he seizes it.
Yeah, I absolutely hope you're right. So with that, we have both have them winning tonight. Play the Magic on Thursday, a little New Year's Eve matchup. Markelle just got the contract extension. They're 3-0. They beat the Miami Heat and the Wizards twice. How do you think the Sixers do against them on Thursday? Win or lose for the Sixers on Thursday?
So I don't have a score prediction, but I do think that Orlando will go and win tonight because they play the Thunder tonight. Mm-hmm. So I do think that they will win that game and they'll be 4-0. And then I think that they'll get their first loss at home to the Sixers, because it's only right.
I agree, even though the Sixers, for some reason, really, 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 really struggle when they play the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, but it's a new team, Jess. We scratch all that. Leave it in the past.
You're right. And then what do you think about Saturday when they play the Charlotte Hornets? Where do they play that game? Do they play that game at home? They play that game at home.
Yes.
Okay, so Terry Rozier obviously has given the Sixers a lot of problems in the past. He's currently carrying that team all the way on his shoulders from a points perspective. They're not really getting many from anyone else. He's averaging about 27 points. Gordon Hayward's about 23. The next highest is Devontae Graham at 12. Cody Zeller just broke his hand. So win or lose for the Sixers on Saturday?
So I want to say win, and I think they will win, but they play the Hornets at home again 2 days later on Monday. So I'm not sure if I'd have to see this week before I can really say if it's a back-to-back wins or if they're going to lose one. So that kind of depends it. But I'm going to say, just for the positivity and to go with the positive side of it instead of the negative side, that they win that and then they go 3-0 on the week.
Yeah, I totally agree. They should have gone 3-0 last week, but with the back-to-back without Joel Embiid, like I said, you could totally see the lack of energy from the jump in Cleveland. So no back-to-backs this week. They get at least a day of rest in between each game. So I think that, that being said, I think they should be at full strength all week this week. Again, barring something unforeseen happening, and I do think they go 3-0 this week.
Woo woo.
All right, so we're going to do a couple prop bets before we go. So again, if this is your first time with us for a pregame show, how this works is we're just going to read them off. They're random. We make them up. They mean absolutely nothing at all. But we're going to read them off. You guys flood the comments with what you think, your answer, what you think. If you were to have to bet on this question, what you would pick. So who ends up with more... words. Who ends up with more points from their 3-point shooters tonight? Danny Green and Seth Curry of the Sixers, or Fred VanVleet and Norman Powell? Which 3-point shooting tandem has more 3-pointers tonight made?
I'm going to go Sixers.
You're going to go Sixers?
Yeah, just because, it is a concern of the game about Fred. I can't talk either. Yep, there we go. Fred VanVleet. Obviously, they're concerned, but as you said, if the Sixers do their job, they should be able to contain it. Yeah, so I'm going to go Danny Green and Seth Curry.
All right. I truthfully think the Sixers are not going to shoot very many. So I think, because Joel Embiid is just going to dominate everyone completely.
That's a good point.
So I think that Fred and Norman, my God. Fred and Norman are going to Yo.
That's funny.
Yo. Okay. I think they're going to make more threes. I totally agree. I think more threes for the Raptors, because they're going to be trying to catch up and keep up with the dominant nature of Joel.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point.
Both of those. Who steps up for the Sixers in week 2 of the season? Who's your week 2 MVP? Because I think week one had to be Joel Embiid because you obviously saw how valuable he was when he wasn't there. So is it still Joel Embiid or does someone step up?
I think Joel is the easy answer, so I don't want to say that. Okay. I'm going to say on the point side, obviously, Seth Curry. Let's say Seth.
Okay.
Let's see him go for a little run.
We've got a Ben Simmons.
I'm just trying to choose a fun one.
This isn't funny. This was going to be my answer.
I would love Tobias, yeah.
I hope it's Tobias Harris. That was absolutely going to be my response. I would like it to be Tobias Harris. So I'm going to.
It's got to come sooner or later.
We're going to speak it into existence. Me, Mark, Jason Sweetchuck, we're going to speak this into existence. But that's not what I meant.
And he shows sparks and flashes here, and he's so capable of it, and it's just bound to happen. So it's a great.
Too long to make decisions. Yeah. He takes too long to make decisions, and when he takes too long to make decisions, 9 times out of 10, he makes the wrong one. So if he just pulls the trigger right away, it's there. Do it. He can do it. He just needs to do it. If we got an agreement with you, Curry begins to break out. This is absolutely true. No Pau Gasol, Marc Gasol, excuse me, not Pau Gasol. My bad. Wrong one. No Ibaka, no problem for Joel. I mean, that's true. I did, in fact, just pick up Serge Ibaka for my fantasy basketball team because he's doing some things. Mike Scott happens once a season. I would love for that to be later in the season and not week 2. That would be super helpful for everyone.
But you can say that for every game because it's bound to happen once.
Like absolutely true. And his confidence is back too. He's somebody who we've seen a big confidence boost from so far with Doc Rivers getting here. All right. Who scores the first points tonight for the Sixers? Who is it?
Joel.
I'm going to go Ben.
Okay. I like it.
I see it. I haven't talked about Ben Simmons at all yet. So I feel like I need
He's bound to come up.
Yeah, he has to come up. I don't know what this means. I love Mike Scott. He's the kind of person I want on my team, even if he just sits at the end of the bench the entire 100%. Time. You need him there, always.
Who doesn't want a rider?
Yeah, seriously.
He's 100%. Yeah. Got your back.
100%. No question, all the time. All right, we got Seth Curry, Ben. All right, I like it, people. I like it. Over under 23 is taken by the Sixers. Taken, not made. I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it. Under.
Ooh.
Oh, we got a lot of unders coming in.
We've got some agreement. I love that. Under. I love when people agree with us. It makes me feel so smart.
I know, right?
We got That's a fact.
True that.
That's true. We got an over here on Instagram. We got another under. We have an over. We've got an under. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Who has a higher 3-point percentage tonight? The Sixers or the Raptors?
Okay, so to match up with what I said for the first one, that the Sixers would have the more points, I'm going to say the Sixers just to go along with what I said, but you kind of talked me out of it. So I can see the Raptors doing it.
But I think the Sixers have a higher 3-point percentage because I think they shoot less. I think they shoot less of them. But I think the Raptors are going to be just firing them off in bulk. And I think the Sixers have 7 to 15. 7 to 15 is such a wide range.
Literally double.
That is a very wide range.
Double 7.
Yeah. It's a very wide range. Raptors. No, I don't like this. No. These are all the same people that said that the Sixers were going to shoot more because they were playing catch up. How are they going to have a higher percentage if they're going to have to keep
100%? The reason why you just kind of made me think about it, because I'm still thinking about the math in my head, but you're right.
Math is hard. we established that before our episode yesterday. Math is
when it took us an hour and a half to calculate.
Yes, how many points the Eagles have been outscored by in the second half of their games. But we're not talking about them right now. All right, over under 5 fouls tonight for Aaron Baines.
I know what you're going to choose. I'll say under because they need
I think he fouled out. Oh, that was meant to be 7 for 15, so almost 50%. Got it. Done.
Okay.
Understood. Our bad.
Okay.
Our bad. Our bad. I'm gonna say he fouls out.
I knew you would say that. Yeah, I'm gonna say 100%. Under.
I think he's gonna foul out, and Joel Embiid's gonna shimmy all over the place. It's gonna be a magical time.
That would be amazing. But I think he has to be smarter than that. I would be mad as a Toronto fan if he fouls out.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna make a really mean joke and be like, does Toronto have fans? But like, yeah, there were like a lot of people at that parade.
Drake.
Oh yeah, he counts for like 50. I mean, we have Meek Mill and Kevin Hart and Will Smith and Lil Uzi and Lil Dicky. Come on.
And Kobe, R.I.P. Just kidding. He's actually a Lakers fan. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he's more
fan,
Eagles. Though. Go Birds. Go Birds. All right. Let's see. I'll go under. He doesn't match up and won't be on the floor. I mean, he will be on the floor because he's the only person that could remotely match up with Joel Embiid. Without Aaron Baines, they might as well just play 4 players because it would be the exact same thing anyway. Like he's quite literally the only one that could potentially match up with Joel. So he has to be on the floor, but he's going to be in foul trouble, so he won't be. So Joel Embiid will leave the game with 30 points in the third quarter, and Dwight Howard will just finish it. I don't know. Like it. Yeah. It should be a big game for the centers. Like no questions asked there. Here's a good one. Over under 1 Ben Simmons 3.
Oh, I'm gonna push it. I'll say 1.
He thinks 1. What the heck? I thought it looked like he thought about 1 the other night, and I was like, just do it. Do it. Come on. Another push. I love it. Just take 1. It's fine. Yeah. 1. If Dwight Howard tells him to, he might. Can you imagine, like, again, thinking about like 2 years ago, not only if you would have told me that Dwight Howard would be a Sixer and he would be a gift from God leading the team, and if you would tell me he'd be Ben Simmons' shooting coach. Even Doc Rivers made a joke.
Because then we're gonna get the narrative of, does Dwight Howard match up better with Ben Simmons than Joel Embiid? Does Ben respect Dwight Howard's opinion more than Joel? Does he listen better on the court to Dwight?
You're right.
We're gonna get all of that.
You're right. Even though Dwight's like almost 40.
I know.
And you would never know. You would absolutely never know. All right.
No, he looks great. And physically.
Under. I like the apology that comes with this. Made or shot? Shot. Just shoot it.
Yeah.
Just shoot it. We just need him to shoot it. It doesn't really matter. Superman and Superboy. That's really funny. All right. Start of the game on offense for the Sixers.
Starting the game of offense. Joel Embiid.
I think it has to be Joel Embiid.
My prediction. Yeah.
Has to be Joel Embiid. I also think this is interesting. I just want a jump shot from him. The literal first shot he took of the entire basketball season was a jump shot. He does it. It's there. They just haven't gone in yet. I don't know what to tell you. Eventually. Danny Green. That's an interesting choice on the offensive side. I like it. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. Joel. We got lots of Joel. Embiid. We've got another Joel up here. Start the game on defense. Who is it?
I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to say Matisse Thybulle. You thought I was probably going to go Ben, but no, I'm going to go Matisse Thybulle.
We've got a Ben.
That's a safe bet.
We've got a Seth Curry up here. I believe that's for offense because Seth Curry's defense is not too good. But that's okay because he can shoot. And then we love that. This is funny. If Danny Green is the star on offense, we lose. Hey, we've got a support for you on that one. We've got another Ben. I do think Ben, because I think he needs to just he does so much that his defense is going to be. He's going to be the key or the spark for them on defense.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But I'm still saying Matisse.
I like it. I do like it. I love it. I love it. All right. We are coming to the end of our episode today. Oh, we got someone else agreeing with you. Mark agrees with you.
Thank you.
Don't you worry.
We're so smart.
We are. Really?
Unless it doesn't happen.
Then it was never said.
Nope.
Well, thank you guys, all of you on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever the heck you're watching right now. Thank you for tuning in for our second episode of Sixers Pregame Live. If you haven't already checked out our episode of Babes on Broad, our podcast from this week, check that out. It dropped this morning, episode 56. We break down the entire mess that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Keep an eye out on our social media next Sunday-ish to vote for which game we should preview next week. I was totally lying to you. The Celtics do not come this week. I think it's February 7th that they arrive.
Next week is fun because so they have Charlotte, and then I think is it I don't remember actually. I was looking a couple weeks ahead because it's either next week or the week after that they play the Heat twice.
Ooh. Next week, they play the Hornets, the Wizards, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Denver Nuggets. So maybe.
Okay, so it'd be probably between.
Yeah.
Nets or Nuggets.
It's going to be Nets or Nuggets. So it'll either be Thursday or Saturday. We'll definitely put that out, let you guys vote on that, see which one you'd prefer, which one you'd rather get pumped for, or which one you're more available to get pumped and pregame with us for. But in the meantime, thank you again for joining. Okay, we've already got votes for Nets.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
All right. KD? Is that why?
Yeah. It's KD and Kyrie. It's going to be their biggest competition in the East, because I still think that they can match up with and beat any other team in the NBA, or especially in the East. They can go through any other team in the East. I don't think the Celtics improved. The Bucks, they match up well with the Bucks. They can beat the Bucks. I think that the Nets are going to be the hardest team to get through because of someone like Kevin Durant. So it'll be an interesting.
Yeah, KD is a game changer.
Yeah, so that's going to be a game where they're going to need to be at their highest letle, and they're going to need to play. So, that could be a fun game. We've got another vote for Nets out here. So I guess it'll most likely be the Nets. We're still going to put it out there just to be sure, because they're only 3 away. We got a little bit of time. But in the meantime, thank you again for joining us. Thank you as always to SB Nation and Bleeding Green Nation for hosting us. Go Sixers, and everybody have a happy and safe New Year. Don't be going too crazy. Be safe. Happy New Year.
2020.
We made it. I'll catch you in 2021. Go Sixers.